all and welcome to the Pragati Vichar Literature Festival's Authors Marathon 2025. Today we are having a really interesting theme and topic. So without further ado, let me straight away dive into the session. So for the theme we are having resilience and technology, digital narratives. And the topic we are having is bots and bandits thriving in the age of AI and cybercrime. So with that, let me introduce you to the wonderful panel that we're having. First on the panel, we are having Mr. Ashwin Chandar. Ashwin Chandar is an eminent entrepreneur, inventor, thought leader, and author at the forefront of artificial intelligence and robotics. With over 18 years of significant contribution to these domains, his diverse expertise spans technology, business, ethics, human cognition, and the nature of knowledge and learning, positioning him uniquely to steer these transformative technologies towards a balanced growth and overall benefits for humanity. Ashwinji, thank you so much for joining and giving us your insights.
Glad to be here.
So next on the panel, we are having Shraddha Sahi, who is a passionate reader turned writer. This Pune-based author began with poetry before transitioning to stories and novels. Balancing tradition with and modernity, she finds joy in a cup of coffee, a romance novel, and the magic of a rainy day. An eternal lover of words and storytelling. Shraddha ji, thank you so much for joining and sharing your valuable expertise with us.
Thank you for having me here.
So, I'm thrilled and excited to straight away dive into the questions that we have prepared for the wonderful panel. And these questions would be addressing to the multiple genres and, which would be benefiting the theme. So first, let me, our first question for the day would be balancing complexity and accessibility is a challenge, whether explaining AI or weaving a compelling story. So how do you approach simplifying intricate concepts or emotions without losing the depth? So Shraddha why don't you start first?
See, I think the story you tell, especially when we are considering writing for children, which I do, I think the story you tell holds the key to getting the message across. So, when writing for children, if the matter is complex, it's not a big deal, but the language needs to be simple. And for example, in my book, the case of the counterfeit currency, there's a 13-year-old girl called Chinu. So she is Chinmay Ishwar Deshpande or CID. Her initials are that, and that's why she sets out to be a detective. So the plot is detailed about, counterfeiting and the paper and the printing and the distribution network. But I've introduced it layer by layer, and the children are able to understand. Also, the emotions, you don't need to, dumb it down or reduce the intensity. They're quite capable. As long as I think only for children, it needs to come in the form of physical reactions rather than internalization of thoughts and things like that. So, otherwise, I think through the character's eyes, when the child is seeing the story, anything complex is easy to communicate.
That is a really valuable point, adding layers and while not dumbing down the emotions as well. Ashwin, you have expressively written on AI. So how do you balance these concepts into your writing?
Right. So one of the reasons I started writing this book was that AI is, let's say, developing so fast, especially in the last few years. But not many people even understand what's exactly happening. There are very few people, even tech leaders. People are there in tech for so long, had a very vague understanding, and it actually created a lot of misconceptions. So I started writing the book to get AI accessible to everybody. So that's the main point. So what is it, and what can it do, and what it cannot do? Right? People think it will take over the world, Terminators will kill us. So I was trying to dispel these misconceptions, but it cannot be a technical primer, right? So it just cannot be too technical, then people just get lost. Or it cannot be also philosophical discourse, and then it doesn't get the message right. So what I tried to do was, let's say, to write in terms of things people understand. So, or people know already. So not even understand, but people know already, given there's analogies, right? So for example, if I'm trying to talk about like what they call deep learning in AI, I was trying to give an example of a supermarket or a shopping mall. So like how it can connect to each other. So then there is data coming in. It's like people, let's say, raw materials coming in, and the final output product is like the final product in the shop. So then you can go shop different things, and scaling is like going from a small supermarket to going a shopping mall where you can get everything. These are small kind of examples where people already know, right? Then it becomes easy to associate them. So that's one main approach I used. And the other thing, as Shraddha ma'am said, is also to build up layers. So already in the first go, you cannot tell them that this is what it is, but you have to take them through a journey. to understand, okay, this is how it started, it can do something like this, and then, oh, this is what it can do. So it's like a slow journey and layering one top of the other and adding more concepts at every instance, right? And the last thing I try to do is kind of to, let's say, imagine the future is very hard, right? So I, let's say, for example, when people say what will happen to our future when AI comes in, yeah, it's just very hard to imagine the future. So I give analogies of what happened when, let's say, machines came, like motors and electricity came. So what happened in the last 50 years, for example, when let's say machines were replacing human labor, right? Physical labor. So like there are weavers and there are people who are working in the factories, blacksmiths. So their job slowly became that you have to use the machine rather than doing the actual work itself. So in the same way, AI is there, but it's not about physical labor but mental labor. So we just still need to know use the machines, but instead of physical task, we'll do the mental task. So then if you bring up the stories like this, people can correlate. So what happened in the past will can now happen in the future in this different manner. So it was easy for people to understand. So that's how I try to, let's say, bring down the complexity of the AI to what people can understand everyday life.
Hmm. No, Aswin, actually, I'm compelled to ask you the question, will AI get my job?
uh, it is in fact like, okay, AI will not take your job, but somebody using AI will take your job.
Very nicely put. Yeah. So with that, let's move on to my next question. So both of you write about resilience, and that is the hot topic that we're having. So whether through futuristic technologies or relatable characters, how do you see your work encouraging readers to think deeply about the challenges and triumphs of life? So for example, Shraddha, you use your character CID, and Ashwin, you write about explicitly on AI. So how do you think both of your individual works contribute to building resilience overall? Shraddhaji, why don't you start first?
See, all my books, the common thread is all the protagonists are all female. They are strong characters, and they're a little quirky in how they go about their, achieving their targets. But they all have a very positive outlook, and they refuse to accept defeat. So we all know, the words are very powerful. And when you read a story or when you see the novelized novel come to life on TV, what happens is that the words stay with you, the situations stay with you, especially the more
Hmm.
outlandish and colorful the character and the situation, the deeper it goes in your memory. And sometimes when you experience such situations in life, those characters come back to you, or the situations and what happened. And most of the children's books have happy endings, so sometimes
Hmm.
at the back of the mind the child also tends to remember that it's all going to end well, there is a silver lining there. So in for example, in my book, Chino CID, she faces a lot of difficulty and obstacles. She even has faces physical danger, but she doesn't back off. She keeps going till she achieves her success. So I think by reading the books, the kids will come, because their experiences are much less than the adults. So I think they can imagine themselves in such characters, and eventually maybe learn a little from them and realize that something good can happen if you just persist at it.
Hmm. Very nicely put. So, just a follow-up of that, like, what do you think, what is the thin line, fine line? Uh, let's talk about good endings or bad endings, happy endings or sad endings. So when do you think, is the right time or the thin line when to show the child, the right kind of ending? Let's say not ever the good ending, but also certain sensitive emotions, talking about sensitive topics like LGBTQ, etc. So what do you think, would be this in case of children?
See, I think at every age they are able to grasp certain concepts. So there's no fixed age for introducing such concepts. But whatever the situation, especially for children, you need to be more sensitive in that even if there is a little tragic or a little serious aspect, you don't put too much emphasis on it. You tell it. You don't hide the facts, or you don't gloss over it. But highlight the other part of it, highlight the
Hmm.
what the positives or what good can happen out of it also. All concepts, I think, you if you use simple language, whatever the age group, it's okay. It's the way you phrase it, the way you tell the
Hmm.
story, actually.
Hmm. Ashwinji, let's move on to you. Basically, what are your insights on this?
So let's see if we talk about challenges and resilience of in life, right? So Yes, you rightly pointed out just when you talked before, is AI going to take my job? Right? That's some questions people are asking every time. So doesn't matter from a normal entry level typist or even to top level managers. People are like, will AI take over my jobs? And sometimes you see all these news articles. Oh, AI can do this. AI can write programs. AI can do books. So then you start getting this unknown fear. So
Hmm.
so then I try to like one of the big aspects is try to dispel this fear, right? So like to look at the challenges to understand. So what I try to say is first you to understand what is it, so then you can work around it or you can move around it. So let's say if you can understand that it'll really take your job, you can either choose to figure out how to use it or figure out what else can I do, which is
Hmm.
adding much more value. So it tries to dispel this unknown so that you can face your challenges a bit more easily, or you can get clarity. So I write about more of clarity, and also I encourage people to think about the future. So saying that if let's say I even try example of in a potter's wheel, right? So when they got the wheel, then all the
Hmm.
potters were like, okay, now I'm out of jobs. But it's never the case. You are just lives like the complexity of what you can do increases. So let's say instead of people pulling carts manually, now we are sitting in a computer and just getting a button to make the car drive by itself, right? So
Hmm.
that's the level of complexity increases. So might be when people are thinking of challenges, they say it might not be like you'll do the same job in the future, but you can be much more higher level, much more
Hmm.
sophisticated. So it gives hope that okay, yes, I can do better things and things gonna be in better say for the future. And mainly I try to bring in foresight, right? So you all know that the farther you can look ahead and predict, doesn't matter. It can be in stock market, how
Hmm.
the country goes, or even in your life. You can much better be prepared for it. It's the same with countries or individuals who prepare for it with longer time or bound to succeed. So I try to bring in this message across the book.
Hmm. A mentor of mine said like either you can be good at your job or you can be good at using AI in your job. So with you like with using that, recently a lot of authors and publishers have started using AI into writing books and using it into multiple content writing works, designing work, etc. So what like personally both of you are authors. So what do you feel like have you used AI into your regular lives for for content writing for getting feedbacks or in whatever like what is your view on AI in using your works for the specifically for the authors.
See, nowadays you'll find even social media. If you use the AI, you need to put this AI was used in the creation of this post. Same thing is happening with books. You need to
Hmm.
mention whether AI was used or not. But what I've tried Chat GPT to see what it's all about, but it can't beat a human being. You don't get that level
Hmm.
of creativity. What it uses is it extracts information which has been uploaded and cut, copy, paste, and you get interesting ideas and combinations. But I don't see the whole idea of writing in that creative field is these concepts which come from the human brains. And a machine just cannot, I don't think, figure. Maybe in the field of editing and,
Hmm.
typesetting and all these things, it can help for the publishing business. But that creative part of it, I don't see. At least right now, I have no concept that in the future this can happen.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Ashwinji, your take.
So you have to look at AI as a tool, right? So for example, like 10 years ago when autocorrect came, so when they can cut grammar, right?
Hmm.
So it was still kind of rudimentary form of AI, but we didn't complain, right? Because it's a small form, so it will help you get better. So let's say what you need to focus on the content you want to convey, but the grammar is corrected by machines. It's perfect, right? You don't have to be
Hmm.
expert in grammar to get your message conveyed. Same way, the AI what you see right now is just in very like say 10x advanced version of it, where as I said, it cannot create something new. So the fundamental creativity is the realm of humans. So
Hmm.
we can only create something which doesn't exist. And AI, okay, it might seem like it's creating something new because if you're looking at one person looking at it, like, oh, I don't know this, it's getting new. But it's just a mix and match of what humanity has all created together, right? So it's same like if you ask, okay, write me a science fiction book of going to Mars. It's like might be you read one or two books, but it has read millions of these books which are written on this. So it'll just mix and match, put together, and take it out. It will seem like, oh, great, perfect, it solves my purpose. So as long as it still serves its purpose, you can still use it, right? So let's say if you have a core idea and you want to express something, you can use it to let's say expand your thought or bring it a story. So sometimes what I use is that, say, this is my concept to explain, give me an analogy, create a story to explain this analogy very well. So there it helps me very well, right? So I don't have to
Hmm.
break my head for 2 days to get an analogy, but as long as I know what I want to convey, I can use these tools to make it happen. But you just cannot go to chat gpt and say write me a children's book for something, or I cannot say write me a book on AI. It'll just fail, just doesn't exist. So it's an used as a tool to basically achieve what human has to communicate. So all the whole role of authors to communicate what's in our brains to the whole people in our books.
Correct.
So AI is just, you can use it as a tool to do that, and just, but AI cannot replace the initial thought.
Thank you so much, Ashwin, for giving me confidence for my next job interview. So with that, let's dive into the next question. So how do you find balance between grounding your work in research or tradition and allowing your creativity to guide you in writing? Like innovation that requires a deep connection to the subject. Shraddha, why don't you start this?
I think in the context of writing, in the context of the book, when you need to impart the information you have researched or the technical information, then that needs, at least in children's books, it needs to be done gently, slowly, rather than all at once. So children also, like Ashwin said before, they need a lot of examples to get you can put the
Hmm.
details, but it has to come at a slow pace. And at the same time, if the child feels that you are underestimating their intelligence or, talking down to them, then they're going to shut the book. So you have to balance that. Here's where the creativity comes in, because you have to have the characters give the information little by little in bits and pieces, and let the child himself arrive at that aha moment.
Hmm.
Instead of spotlight on one big thing, you have light shining on it from different angles, and at the end of the book, when the child gets the whole picture, that's when the concept will truly go in, and he will feel that he thought and arrived at this. So that is where that balance of the two comes in, I think.
Hmm. Ashwin, your take on this?
Right, right. I think she put it well. So it's, I
Hmm.
think it's the same for adults as well, right? Nobody likes to be told this is what you should do or this is what it is. And
Right.
it's always happy to come up with this realization by yourself. Like
Hmm.
it needs to trigger this realization. So, and as you said, you need to, that there is fact and there is objective things of what technology is, what it can do. But if you want to get a deep realization, then you need to take it them on a journey of um, taking them by thread and then making a whole fabric by that. So it's same like, for example, I cannot be completely creative in the actual factual part, right? Factual part, I cannot suddenly say, okay, Terminator is alive, right? I cannot say that.
Right.
Fact is that is what AI can do, but the creativity comes in how do you put things together, how do you communicate this story in different formats, right? So in my work as an entrepreneur for last 10, 15 years, like I work in robotics and AI. So sometimes it's very hard to communicate this and to different stakeholders, right? So if you talk to a student, he needs to understand differently, or if you want to talk to a client or a marketing person or an investor, they all talk the different language, so they want to understand
Hmm.
differently. So then you have to be creative enough to how do you tell this same core information so that everybody understands it, right? So that's where real creativity comes in, especially dealing with core technical concepts. So there you can bridge what you have to explain by understanding the psyche of people who are listening to you. So that's this
Hmm.
fine balance. You cannot go offline with let's say fictional stuff, but it cannot be just stuck to only one way of telling stories.
Hmm. Right. And I think that is what storytelling is. Having your work, using real life examples, layers, etc. This is what combines, storytelling. So with that, my next question is innovation and emotion often seems like opposites, yet both of you bring them together in your work. So how do you reconcile these forces in your creative process? Shraddha?
See, we all know left brain, right brain functions and specific purposes. But if one side is totally dominant, so the person may come across as cold, or the other brain is super active, then it'll be like hyper colorful or strangely weird. So like that in the book, too much emphasis on facts. Again, the book is not readable. Too much of emotional and drama Again,
Hmm.
it is not very pleasant. It's too much of adrenaline throughout. So you need to balance that. Like in personal life also, I think I like Ashwin. I come from a scientific field. I'm an ophthalmologist. So if you're in your doctor frame of mind, you can't come be too emotional. Otherwise, you won't see the patient objectively. And when I'm in the writer frame of mind, then I can't. I have to, be more
Hmm.
emotional, passionate about it. But you need a balance of the two. The doctors also have to be empathetic. Sometimes think outside the box. The writers also have to be logical because the book has to have a beginning, middle, ending. So you have to balance that. And yes, sometimes things get a bit schizophrenic. You what to do when you don't realize. But I think the key, what I have learned in personal life and writing, is that what aspect is required here today of me. You think about that and then you give focus on that aspect.
Hmm. Very nice advice, actually. Using the right frame or right set of skills at the right time. That is what, that is really commendable advice. So, Ashwin, what is your insight on this?
So, as Rajat just said, right, it's a kind of a balance, right? Balance into take, but I would say take it one step, or let's say on top, not just on the writing process, right? So, see, emotion is something what makes us alive. So what makes us living is what emotions. Of course, you don't understand it. It's just it's spontaneous things, right? So if there is no emotions, we will be same as machines, right? Just
Hmm.
predictable, same way, repeating again and again and again. So emotion is like the core part of life. Doesn't matter it's writing or living anytime. But then, so what we call it is subjective. So you cannot predict emotions because it's not like objective process, right? It's a highly subjective. It's a result of a lot of things which has gone through a biases, how the people are there, right? So the same joke might be offensive to you and it might be very funny
Hmm.
to somebody else. So it's the same, it's a result of individual biases, and that's what makes us innately human or innately living. But then, as she said, if it goes overboard, we can also not let's say it's not sustainable thing. So let's say in your work you cannot take fully into emotional and say, I don't like it, or let's stop it, or this is great, let's put all our money into it. It's bound to fail. It's so you really need to be objective in those things, right? So objective means that take decisions based on data or prediction, go through the rigorous process. So this objective and subjective balance is kind of very a delicate balance you need to have. And it's of course sometimes it's not always 50-50. Sometimes you need to go more on the emotional side, because when there is no real answer you need to trust your instincts what people say.
Hmm.
And same like innovation, right? This innovation, it's a good explanation of this fine balance of objective and subjective things. I cannot suddenly go and say AI or whatever, doesn't matter AI. Like, I can just say I'm going to
Hmm.
innovate based on my dreams. You need to take something which is working, find out what it's used for, and then add some creativity on top of it. That also some comes from emotion sometimes, right? So and then you make something really useful. It's all the people call it different ways, right? Yin and yang, right and left, masculine, feminine, whatever you call it. It's this right balance which I
Yeah.
think makes the world a very exciting place to live.
No, I think emotion is what keeps us alive, and innovation is what keeps us going. So, that is a really great concept. So, with that, I come to my last question. So, this is actually a advice based. So, aspiring writers and innovators often hesitate to start their journey. Be it their first book or for their first startup. So, based on your experiences, what advice would you give to those looking to dive into either storytelling or trailblazing new fields? Shraddha ji, why don't you
Okay,
start?
so when we talk about writing, I think it's very simple. If you want to write, you just start writing. Don't wait for the planets to align or someone to tell you you're good enough. You just begin.
Hmm.
It was, I think, Van Dyke who said that the woods would be very silent if only the best bird sang. So you can't, and you have to realize that it's a journey, it's a process. So you can't hit a first ball for a sixer. Your first novel is probably not going to do well. So you will improve as you keep on writing page by page. Just work at it. And second thing, what people limits people is I'm either too young or I'm either too old. So you have to realize that teenage writers like the writer of Aragon, I think Paulini, he wrote in high school and this became a super success. Or Raymond Chandler, the guy who wrote the famous detective stories, I think his first book came out when he was 51. So it doesn't matter how old you are. You just you want to do it, you work at it. The bottom line is you must practice the craft, you must, and the second, the most important thing is you must read. Read everything you can, read every genre, read every day, and that's it. Just work at it and follow your passion.
Hmm. Ashwinji, what about you?
Indeed. So, you see, I think, as we've discussed before, right, the goal of writing or right, being an author is to bring your some thoughts within your head to kind of time and space. Let's say, for example, say I can talk to you, but let's say tomorrow I don't exist. Let's say everybody dies, right? But the writing, the beauty of writing is even if you die, your writings stay alive, right? So we read people from thousands of years ago, and their concepts still alive. And your book goes across to people. So it even current today's people in the US can read your book. So it's a powerful way to share your idea. And
Hmm.
so I would say the first thing you have to figure out is what do you want to convey. It doesn't have to be technical or something. It is okay. I want to make people laugh, or I
Hmm.
want to make people go through a suspense journey, or I want to make people feel resilient. So whatever the genre of book can be, but if you identify what you want to communicate, the core message, then a lot of things can fall in place because sometimes you are lost on what should I write. Oh, it's a 200-page book. Where should I start? But then it takes some time to conceive this main core idea. And I would say any author should start with that process. What, why? It can be fiction, non-fiction, anything doesn't matter, right? That's the core idea. But then now, before people have to be okay, you have to be very good in English or any other language. You should have a very strong part. But now with all these AI tools and all these things, that's kind of taken care of. Doesn't matter however difficult you like, however how much ever you try, you cannot be better than AI in constructing a grammatically sound thing. Like because it has learned from thousands of things, you cannot compete there. But then what
Hmm.
you should do is use them as a tools, right? As we discussed before. So if you have a core idea, language is not a limiting factor. So you don't have to be in, let's say, very strong anything. You just need to have strong intuition, ideas, emotions, what you want to convey. And once that's there, you can bring it out. The converting that into and grammatically sound language is makes it very easy right now. So the kind of the barrier to entry to writing has decreased a lot. So and you can bring it, like you can also brainstorm. So if you have a core idea, then you can brainstorm with the systems on what how do you explain this. So it doesn't have to be a first book, but you can just take a small simple story, right? And then you say how will you write this. So then it gives you idea. So I can use this idea, or I can do it in this different genre. So, and then with this, you can slowly build up your kind of confidence even. So you start with the paragraph, you generate a story, and you start with a small chapter, and you come up with a like a big paragraph, an essay, and then you can build it up. So you can add suspense, or you can add multiple things, and then end up in a book. So instead of trying to have the complete idea for the book ready before writing, as Shraddha ma'am said, just start writing, or actually just
Hmm.
start thinking what do you want to write, and then start with the first page. Things will flow.
Hmm. Very commendable advices from both of you. And before you go, I have one specific question for both of you. So let's start off with Ashwin. As a pioneer in robotics and AI, how do your real world experiences influence the themes and ideas in inevitable AI in the book?
Mhm. Right. So, say because I've been involved in this field last 18 years, and I have also seen how it's kind of evolved and what directions it has evolved, right? So, some directions really needed for humanity, but then some directions are pulled by economic forces. Then you see, why is this product being so popular? Why is this not like, for example, sometimes social media is so popular? It's like, why? We don't even need it sometimes. And a lot of things which we really need, like even healthcare kind of things, which are lagging behind 20, 30 years. So that kind of introspection into these things also gave an idea of how, let's say, the technology will evolve in the future. Though we will want to be altruistic, but it's still economic pressures which will guide the development. And if we know this, let's say, this kind of things, what I relate to really, because when we initially started with developing robots for helping old people or developing people, it just didn't fly off because slowly we realized the economic value is not that heavy. But then at the end, when we developed robots for warehouses with e-commerce, or we developed robots in hospitals, it just took off because there is really economic need. So that's kind of thing which really influenced me in this process, and also want to communicate that to people, that why would some technologies grow really fast and some will take time. So like one example is I explained why a job of your gardener or a cook or a farmer will be very safe for years to come, while and job of a marketing person or a typist or even a programmer will be in danger in next 3 years to come, just because it's much more economical to write software than build a huge robot to do your cleaning and cooking job. So that kind of influenced my writings in the book.
Hmm. So with that, I have one last question for Ms. Shraddha. So mystery novels require intricate plotting and sharp attention to detail. So how did you approach crafting the twists and turn in your book, The Case of the Counterfeit Currency?
See, I'm not a very big plotter. I'm more of a, as it comes person. But I try to sit down and fix the beginning, middle, and ending. So when that is sorted, there have been instances where I had no idea of the ending also. But I tend to at least do the basic layout. And what I focus on is character building. So when you have the core characters like the
Hmm.
protagonist and the antagonist and a few other side characters in place, once they come to life, sometimes the characters create their own twists and turns. Sometimes they take you on their own journeys. It's very strange, but
Hmm.
very often the book goes where you have not planned it to go. So that also you have to leave space for that. So I think the character is also very important as the plot. And what I do is, once the basic outline is in place, I finish the first draft, and then in the second draft, then I, like in mysteries, you need red herrings, you need a little twist, you need maybe decoys here and there, you need
Hmm.
suspects, a list of suspects and elimination, all that. Then I, because sometimes they have all clustered in one place, then the spacing and where to exactly to place them, that sprinkling I do later. So this is like my basic process. I first do the
Hmm.
basic outline, but the details, like you said, twists and turns are not pre-planned. Sometimes they come on their own, and sometimes after I've read the book or my beta reader has gone through the book, they realize, no, that here it is lagging, it is slowing down a little, maybe you need a little twist over here. Then I add those.
Hmm. You made it sound like writing is such a journey and such a beautiful one.
It is.
So So with that, we are at the end of the session. From the PVLF and the Frontlist family, I would like to, thank you both of you for sharing such a valuable insights and participating in this festival. We do hope, we look forward to both of your upcoming works and our future collaborations. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot.
Atish.
Thanks a lot for your engaging questions. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you so much.